In this video, we're going to find some numbers in a kind of a different way. When solving rows and columns, when you run into something difficult, look elsewhere. Or in other words, look in ways you may not have looked before. I'll explain what I mean by that in just a minute when we get going on this puzzle. This is puzzle number 92, a diabolical puzzle by Sudoku to Go, volume 127 by Soap Opera Digest. I put in a 1 here already because that's very easy to see. And I'm going to put in a few numbers here at the beginning, and they should be very straightforward, but if you have a question about something I've done or a number I've placed, please leave a comment. Also, if you have any ideas for another video that you'd like me to maybe pursue, or if you have a puzzle that you'd like me to solve, please leave a comment and I'll take a look at it. Okay, how did I get those numbers? Let's take a look at that. Right here we've got a 2, 7, and 2, 5, and 7 in this row outside of this box. And we've only got 3 cells outside of this row, so we know these are 2, 5, 7 triplets. That leaves 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It leaves 6 and 9 as the only 2 numbers that are left in this box, and then we can solve those easily. Okay, there's a 9. There's a 9. Those 2 6s should be pretty self-explanatory, pretty easy to see. That 1's here because we got a 1 there, so we have ghost 1's there. And if you're not familiar with techniques that I talk about, go to sudokuprimer.com. You'll find them there. I talked about ghost numbers here, and you'll find ghost numbers right up on sudokuprimer.com. Okay. Alright, now at this point in this puzzle, you could look around and see, but we're already kind of stuck. We're not much to. There's a lot of stuff in here that doesn't help much, and so here's where I want to point out what I mentioned at the beginning. When solving rows and columns, look elsewhere, or in other words, look in ways you may not have already looked. Now, as an example of that, let's look at column 1 here. Now we're missing 7 of the 9 numbers, and it's kind of difficult to keep track of all those numbers. So let's figure out a way to look in a different way at this column. Usually when you're trying to solve a column, you're focused on that column, but let's turn our focus elsewhere. What numbers are we missing? 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 7 numbers. And now look at this. We've got a 2, 6, and 7 here. So these have to be 3, 4, 8, or 9. Okay. Let's look at this row right here, where we need a 3, 4, 8, or 9. There's a 4. There's a 9. So that's a 3 or an 8. Let's look here. We need 3, 4, 8, or 9, and we've got a 9, so that's got to be 3, 4, or 8. here we've got an 8 already, so that's got to be a 3, 4, or 9. So that doesn't quite help us enough. We need one more number. We've got 2, 6, and 7. We need one more number to narrow this down to 3 remaining numbers. But look at this right here. We've got 2, 6, 7, and 9 when we're looking at this cell right here in row 5. We've got a 2, 6, 7, and 9 and a 4 right here. And let's look at this row right here. We've got a 2, 6, 7, and 9. So we've got 2, 6, 7, and 9 that we can see in all 3 of these cells. So that means these are 3, 4, 8 triplets right here. So here we've got a 3, 4, 8. Here we've got, with that 4, we've got a 3, 8. And here we've got a 3, 4, 8. So that means this cell and these 3 cells are 2, 6, 7, and 9. Now we've got a 2, 6, and 7 here, so we know that is a 9. Once we found those triplets, by looking elsewhere or looking in this part of the puzzle rather than focusing on this column, we found a 9 there. Now all we need is a 2, 6, and 7. Here we don't have any. Here we've got a 2, so that's a 6 or a 7. Here's a 6 or a 7, so we know that's a 2. So now all we've got left is 6, 7 here, 6, 7 here, and these 3, 4, 8 triplets. But these 2 numbers right here will turn out to, it turns out that they will help us. That really broke open the puzzle. Let's continue on now. We've got a 9 here and 9 here, so we know that's a 9 right there. And a 2 here and a 2 here. So one of these is a 2, and I know this is a 2 right there. It can't be this one or this one, and that's because I used double column elimination to narrow it down to this column. If you're not familiar with double row and column elimination, go to the techniques section of sudokuprimer.com and you'll see how you can use that technique. Alright, now we got a 4 here and a 4 here already, so that's a 4. And that narrows a 4 to this cell in box 5. Alright, now we're missing, let's see what we're missing in row 5 here. 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. 3, 5, and 8. 3, 5, 8. 3, 5, 3, 5. There's an 8 in this box already, so we know that has to be an 8. And there's a 5 there, so we can solve the 3 and the 5. Okay. Now we've only got one number left in box 5 and only one number left in column 5. So we finished those. All right. Now let's look at, let's see. I know this is a 5 right there. I can see that's a 5. Now the way I can see that's a 5 is we've got a 2 and a 3 in this column already. We've got a 2 and a 3 in this row already. So that means this cell and this cell are 2, 3 twins. If you can see that, we got 2 and 3 here and 2 and 3 here. So we have 2, 3 twins here. Now finding those twins, even though we can't solve them, that shows us that this box has a hidden T pattern in it, with these 2 cells being twins. Okay, and if you're not familiar with T patterns, go to sudokuprimer.com and go to the patterns section, and you can find out about different patterns, and the T pattern is out there too. It also talks about hidden patterns. Now with that hidden pattern, what do we have here in this row outside of this box? We've got a 2, 4, 7, 3, 9. And we have a 2, 3, 4, 9 already here, 2, 3, 4, 9. Well, we don't have a 7 in this box, so we know the 7 has to be in one of these two locations. And since this had to be a 5 or a 7, we're missing 2, 5, and 7 here. We've got a 2 there already, so we knew that had to be a 5 or a 7. And with these ghost 7s here, that's how we found that 5 there. Once we found that 5, we found this 5 pretty easily because we got a 5 there and 5 there. Alright, now let's look at row 3 and see if we can finish it. We're missing 1, 1 and 8, and there's a 1 there already, so we can finish solving those. And in addition to that, now we have these 2, 3 twins here, and we have 7, 8 twins here. We can just see the 7, 8s because of the 2, 3s, and also because this column is filled in all except for these two numbers. Alright, let's look at column 2 here. What are we missing? 3, 4, 5, 7. 3, 4, 5, and 7. Here's a 4 and a 5, so that's a 3 or a 7. Here's a 4 and a 5, so that's a 3 or a 7. So we know these are 4, 5 twins. There's a 5 there, so we can solve them. So now we're missing 3 and 7 in that column, which we can't solve yet. Alright, now we've got an 8 here and an 8 here, so that's an 8 right there. And what are we missing in box 4 here? 1, 2, 3, 5, 3, 5, and 8. So that's an 8. Now we have 3 5s here, and there's a 5 there, so we can solve those. Alright. And let's see here. We've got a 3 here, so we have ghost 3s here. So we know that's a 3. Well, I didn't notice it, but that was the only number left in that row too, which would have been easier to find that 3 that way. Alright, we're only missing one number in row 6 there. Okay, let's look at row 8. We only have 4 numbers, so we're missing 5, but we know what these two are because they're twins. They're the only 2 numbers in this box, and they're 2, 2, and 7. So let's see what we're missing in addition to that. We're missing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 4, and 6. There's a 1 and a 4 there already. And there's a 4, so that's a 1 and that's a 4. Alright. And with this 1, we can solve that 1 in box 2 there. Alright. And I also know that this is an 8. Now how do I know that? Well, let's see. Well, we have 2 6 twins in box 8 here. And we have 2, 6, and 8 missing here. And if we use the ambiguity rule or unique rectangles, and if you're not familiar with that, go to sudokuprimer.com and you can learn about that rule. Very powerful rule. We know that these can't both be 2 and 6, and we know these are 2 6 twins in this column, so we know that can't be a 2 or a 6. So these are 2 6 twins, and that leaves that as an 8. Okay. Look that one up if that one's tricky for you. And now we can solve the 7 8 twins that we have in box 3 that we found earlier. And we're missing 3, 6, and 7 here, and with that 7 there, 7 here, we know that's a 7, Remember our 3 7 twins in column 2 here. We can solve them now because of that 7. And then that makes that a 6 there and a 3 here. Now with this 6 here, we can solve the 2 6 twins in box 2 and the 2 3 twins that we found earlier in box 3. Okay, and remember our 2 6 twins here, we can solve them now. Box 9 had a 2 and a 7. Now we have a 2 there, so we can solve those. Box 6 has a 3 and a 7 missing, and we can solve them. Alright, and that's it. So the thing that really helped us a lot was we looked at this column, and even though it was a difficult column because there were only two numbers in it, we started looking at other parts of the puzzle to help us narrow down what we need to do in order to find numbers there. And we found the 3 4 8 triplets in these 3 cells here, and that helped us find the 2 and the 9, and then that kind of broke open the puzzle and made it easy for us to finish solving it. So when you get stuck, look in different parts of the puzzle, look elsewhere, because sometimes it makes it easier to find numbers when you look elsewhere. Well, thank you for watching, and I hope you found this interesting. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please subscribe and click on the bell icon if you want to be notified of new videos coming out. I'll see you on the next video.